Morning. Thank you for joining us today. This is episode 2 of the How It's All Connected Lifestyle Medicine podcast. This is the podcast that will help you bridge the gap between the research and the application of that research in the real world setting so that you, the listeners, can be empowered with the knowledge to take control of your health and wellness so you can live a happier and healthier life. I am your host, Adam Fox, and today I have here with me another Adam, Adam Walker from Outcast Athletics. Adam is the head coach and the owner of Outcast Athletics, as well as a dear friend of mine, a great leader and mentor to myself and many others, as well as a newly father, as I seem to remember. So I'm going to let him, kind of take it from here and explain a little bit about himself. So Adam, thank you for being on. I appreciate the time, and let the people know about you a little bit.
Thanks, Adam. I appreciate it. I'm just a guy who decided that I wanted to help more people be better, and whatever facet that took. So sometimes we like to identify what's our mission in life, and I think that sometimes mine sounds a little vague. It sounds like I want to impact lives and help as many people as I can. And in my search for a more clear answer, I keep coming back to a reason why it's a little bit more muddy. And that's because I don't want to be pigeonholed. I don't want one vehicle to be able to help me achieve that mission. So the way that we've primarily driven this road is we've chosen through health and wellness. And we opened up our facility in 2018. I coached for years before that with another facility, Sweat Revolution. And my original coaching mentor, Dave Martin, and just developed from there, learning all sorts of different styles of training, loving it the whole time because I played football, I was a wrestler. It all started out trying to be better athletically. And then I just kept realizing more and more and more that training in the gym, for me specifically, kept translating to my outside life. And the things that got really hard in the gym allowed me to deal with really hard things outside of the gym. And once I found that was a success for me, it made me feel like this is something that I need to help other people understand. And then this rabbit hole so deep, it went so many different ways of leadership and relationships and love and how to manage stress and the stresses of different age groups and how to communicate, which is probably by far the most important factor in all this conversation. So once I learned that there were so many avenues to help impact people's lives, I decided I can't just say, my mission in life is to help people lose weight, because it's not. There's so many facets of mental wellness, physical strength and competency that correlate to the rest of how we live. And then when Adam invited me onto this podcast and, kind of labeled out what this is designed to be, I was like, man, this is right up the alley of perfection for both of us. So I really believe in his mission and CCHS's mission. And I think that this is going to be a great avenue and a great vehicle. And I'm excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, I first off totally agree with pretty much everything you just said. I think that's a great way to sum up the multifactorial aspects of what we do as coaches, because it's not just about making someone look better in the mirror or lose weight. It's about trying to develop that athlete or person in a holistic manner so that you're challenging them not just physically but mentally as well, right? I know you and I, behind the doors of the podcast, have talked about that, wanting to always challenge the athletes, always make sure that we are getting them to achieve a higher level of excellency, so to speak, in their own eyes and not just our eyes, because it's much more important than just coming in every day and grinding, right? Yes, that is a huge part of what we do. We help people come into wherever we are, whether it's in home or in the gym, and grind harder, but it's much more than just that. It's how do you recover after, right? How do you use that stress that you just was applied to you during the workout to then, like you said, deal with the stresses of your life? Because if you can deal with doing heavy hang cleans on whatever the rep scheme may be, you're doing 100 in a day. If you can handle that, I think that being able to go back into the regular life, so to speak, it's a much easier transition, because then your body is prepared endured that cortisol. It's already endured that insane amounts of stress for that day. So I agree with you. I think that it's really important to not just look at it from the, in the individual, or not the individual, the one aspect of health and fitness, that being fitness itself and exercise. It's much more multifactorial than that.
And I think there was, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, if you actually know the original saying of this. I think it was Coach Wooden from the NCAA, but he said one time he was asked, like, Coach, how do you think your season went? And he responded by saying, I don't know, I'll tell you in 30 years. And the response to that is really about understanding that, we're talking about Division I athletics. We're talking about win or go home, and we're talking about big money. So the fact that an elite level coach like that would suggest that it's about how these young men learn to live their lives after basketball it speaks volumes to what, if that's what's going on at that level of sport, in elite level, we need to, everyone needs to be working on that. Everyone needs to be having that as the primary conversation with anyone, because when we come in here, people want to look good, they want to feel good. Some want to lose some weight, some want to do more on a barbell, but really, how are you living your life outside of these four walls? And that's the biggest win that we can take away. And what are we doing, especially with young people? But we can impact, there's no dog too old. We can impact every client, every person that we get a chance to work with. We have an opportunity to touch them in different ways. So we got to keep working on that and making sure that it's about what does their lives look like after we're out of it, and how does their quality of life improve? So I think that was a great quote that really resonated with me, and continue to bring the value. Each day you come in, you just remember that, and you're like, okay, it's not about the hang clean, but it's about what did the hang clean do for us over time outside these walls. Like you said, when they're managing the stress of their day at work, and it's, stress is relative. So if the hang cleans was super, super hard and you got that done, let's say at 5 a.m., because some of us are crazy and get up and work out in the morning, right? If you get that done at 5 a.m., you've already, another phrase is, swallowed the frog. You've already gotten that thing out of the way. And now the stress of the workday might be down here, where normally if you don't have, that point of reference in terms of the stress that you've already handled, now this stress that's normally easy, now it's become super hard for the day because there's no other relative point to measure against. So when you do the hard things to yourself, no one else can do the hard things to you. So that's a really good point there.
I think that's a great quote. Can you repeat that one more time?
The last one I said, or the wooden one?
Yes, the last one that you just said about doing it to yourself.
So when you do the hard things to yourself, nobody can do them to you. You put yourself through the difficult times, the misery. You take it on purpose. No matter what the circumstances are outside of your purposeful action, you can handle them. There's nothing as hard as what you already put yourself through. And if you could take that mindset through every day and through every workout and every challenge, every other stress becomes easier to handle.
Well, and that, that kind of goes back to mindset in general, and having the ability to control those things that maybe you may seem to be uncontrollable, like those stressors at work, maybe the stresses in a relationship, whatever it may be. And I think that's, part of the reason why I've connected with you, and I have connected on this level, is that we understand that it's more than just it's more than just the gym. It's the mindset behind everything, right? And I think that's extremely important, because I think it's overlooked a lot in this field. And this isn't to bash any other industries, or not industries, corporations or whatever you may call you, but a lot of the time it's come in, sweat, get out, go on with your day. When in reality, maybe someone comes in, they're having a horrible day, and their numbers aren't where they need them to be or want them to be. They're not physically performing the way that they usually are. And that's where, as a coach, we come in as leaders. We come in as someone who can help them not just improve their numbers and lose weight, but, I know we talk about this all the time, but be a therapist to them, right? And obviously I'm not advocating that coaches be therapists every single day. Obviously we're not licensed for that, but asking someone, hey, what's going on? How are you doing? Can make a world of difference. And I know, at least in my coaching experience, that I've pulled people out of very, I'm sure you can attest to this as well, but very deep holes that they've been in due to whatever the stress that they are dealing with that day. And and just having the friend to be there and asking, their coach to be there asking, how are you doing? And being that leader and trying to take that step, I think is so important. And that's what you cultivate in a small, and I'm not degrading the size of your gym by obviously
No, man.
a small business like your own and mine as well, is just being there as a human first, athlete second.
And I think just to reference that conversation of scale, that's a great point. We are definitely a small business. We're in a 2,000 square foot space, and all of the challenges that come with that. But what's really amazing about what Adam and I do and what we're excited about life is when you take one person and you have a chance to impact that one person, how many people does that person know? And that's the quantitative effect, and that's the ripple wave of smiling at one. You can do this anywhere. You can do it at Starbucks. Smile at somebody and realize what that might do across every person and every experience and every interaction they have for that day. Just one thing like that. But now we take our smile and we quantify it by a million. Because now it's not only the great presence that we might bring to be able to help change someone's day. We bring our knowledge of sport, our knowledge of health, fitness, performance, dietetics in some fashion. I'm not an RD. I do know one though.
Likewise.
And shout out Michelle Guy if you need her. Shameless plug, right? So. Yeah, I mean, we quantify what we can do by improving ourselves, because at the end of the day, we have to remember, we're not out here to stand on a soapbox that we aren't prepared to get on. We don't just stand up on false accusations. I know, and coaches that usually do that don't last long. And Adam is a perfect example of living his morals and values, living his coaching style. And that's how we get to really truly impact people, through genuine authenticity, and then reaching out with that level of care and love and compassion, and then watching that ripple wave happen through the whole day through someone else, because you never know who's watching.
And I appreciate the kind words, my friend. And I, just to kind of touch on that a little bit with the ripple effect that Outcast has had in my life, the camaraderie and the how easily I was taken in under the wing by you guys, so to speak, was just incredible. And the relationships I have now are something that I wouldn't have expected coming into this. And these are people that I consider now my family. And this just goes to your point about it's more than just a gym. It's a family. And I think that that's the type of thing that you and I are both trying to do with both of our businesses is create a community setting where it's not, because the community aspect, the socio-environmental aspect of training, being able to, let's just use a random example. Is Sydney coming tonight? Right? Like, yeah. You'll have one person asking about another person. Are they going to be here tonight? Or is the other person going to be here tonight? And that person you can use as motivation to help you continue your workout or finish the workout. And maybe you wouldn't have done as well if that other person wasn't there with you, pushing you. And I think that that's a really important and special thing of this industry and what we do, because we don't just have people, as I've said a couple times, exercise. We bring people together, because that's really what this is about. At the end of the day, do you want to look back on your life and what you've done as, I made some people lose weight, I made some people feel better about themselves, or I brought people together. I created a family. I created an organization, not just an organization, but a community that has the same values, the same structure of beliefs, right? And I'm not talking religious, but a barbell can be a belief too.
It doesn't matter what, you can treat it as a religion. It's whatever you want to believe in.
Yeah. I do agree with that.
I have a counter question. I know you're the interviewer, but I got to give you, because I know your background from school and from some of the practices that you've been in, and actually what you're going to continue to invest yourself in the near future here, is very small, is one-on-one style based training. So before us and now after us, that seems to be the route and the connection points that you have with people. But since you've been a part of Outcast, I feel like that's given you a space to understand that group atmosphere, group concept outside of organized sports. So I think that would you say that that's an opportunity that you believe also that you've seen what the group setting is or the differences in it and how it works with someone's fitness or the culture or all of those things that you just spoke about?
Yeah, I think that it's been a huge growing experience for me, because, like you said, my history is all one-on-one training and or doing group training with teams. So, like he's alluded to, team training. And the biggest thing that I've got from this, aside from being able to, I think I'm all right at public speaking, but being able to public speak a little bit better, especially if I don't exactly know what I'm talking about because I didn't look at the program until
5 minutes before class.
Throw myself under the bus here. But it really showed me that other side of exercise. It showed me the other side of community aspect. It showed me how, like the things I was just alluding to, how important it is. And yes, the training is obviously so much different when it comes to doing group training and like trying to pair things together and making the circuits look all nice and beautiful, the programming aspect. But the intrapersonal aspect is so much more important because it made you realize that, like, yeah, I can come in here and coach every single day and be very bland and which is not my personality, but be very bland and nonchalant. But what am I doing for the person that's getting that training? Am I helping them by being bland and not over explaining things? Like, I'm sure, anyone who's parent listening into this knows I go very in depth when I try to explain something because it's not just about moving that barbell. One of the things I'm very passionate about is making sure you understand why I am telling you to do what you're doing or why you are doing what you're doing. And it's not just a mindless, oh yeah, go over there and sit down in that box, sit down in that box for X amount of reps for X amount of sets. Right? Like I'm explaining the in-depth understanding behind it is something I've definitely picked up on from being at Outcast because I understand that sometimes when you have your own individual client, it's much easier to disseminate that information. It's much easier to sit down and explain that to them. But with a larger group, it's harder to one-on-one break it down and have them understand exactly what's going on. Because at the end of the day, you can teach a man you can feed a man
a fish for a day, or you can teach him to catch a fish for a lifetime.
Yes, and I think that applies to movement. I think that applies to mindset. I think that applies socio-environmental. I think that applies to nutrition. I think it applies to everything. If we can get you to learn why we are doing these things, then you can do them for yourself. So very roundabout answer to that, but there's a lot of things that Outcast has helped me grow as a person, as well as my leadership skills and my ability to lead by example, as well as, obviously lead, stand up in front of a room. So one thing, now it's my turn for the questions. I'd love to know, you are a very good leader. From what I've seen a lot of selfless leading and leading in the front. So leading, I know there's a saying for that, but leading by example, right? So yeah. I'd just like you to touch on leadership a little bit and how important leadership is at Outcast, as well as in general, outside of Outcast, in your life and everyone's life in general.
Thank you. So first off, thanks for the compliments. I really appreciate that. It's truly just a development of the path that we touched on when we first started talking today about the avenues and the vehicles to impact lives. And I think that with me, I didn't grow up with a lot. I didn't have a lot of good examples or good things to be around. But somehow I had one of the best examples in the entire world that allowed me to be who I am today with the kind of compassion that I bring. And that's my mom. So when I had my mom who did everything, we want to talk about selfless, that's where it all comes from. And she has and still continues to this day, give to everyone and everything that she has. And, that's an easy example to follow when you see that every single day. So learning that and subconsciously, right? Because when I'm young, like my mom is beautiful, smart, and loving as she is. She didn't just sit down and teach me, okay, this is how you be selfless. This is what she just led by example. So Never sitting down and having those conversations like, this is what it looks like, this is what you should do, this is what hard work looks like. She just did it, and then I was just like, okay, that's what it looks like from her perspective, and that's what I think that's what I want. And then it just kind of bled into my life, and then I really love sports and things like that. And I'm not a gifted athlete to this day, so I really had to work very, very hard to achieve some of the physical things that I can do now. And when I realized I wasn't as good as other people, I don't think I ever admitted it, and I still don't know if I will today, but I think I understand that there's a certain level of athletic giftedness that comes with certain lives, and I was not that. So I'll tell you this, I was the best cheerleader you ever found on any team that I was on. So I was all up and down those sidelines, all around everywhere. And I had this one story, I don't even know if my mom, a couple really personal people know, but I'm like in high school, I don't know, probably my junior year or something. And we're playing, we have a football game going, and, I'm talking about like being the biggest cheerleader in the world. I'm on the sideline and I'm watching my team, and like this beautiful breakout run happens. And like, I'm like charging down the sideline, like screaming and everything. And I run into a garbage can and knock it over and myself. And I'm like, yep, that's my athleticism right there, baby. Coming in hot. So, just to have that as a little bit of a point of reference. I had to work really, really hard. So if you know me now, you probably think, oh, he makes everything look easy. Oh, he did this, that. I've spent 15 years working on my athleticism, my strength, my control, all these things that come with those realms. So to just lead, to learn how to lead came from those moments. And then to learn how to persevere came from the moments of struggle when I didn't get to start and I didn't get to do the things that I thought I wanted to. And I at the time I thought I earned or should have had. But then as you get older, you realize like earning and should just don't exist. Like should is a terrible word. And it doesn't really, all it does is cover up the important answers and how to get past those things. So like saying, should I be able to touch my toes? Doesn't matter if you should or not. Can you? No. Okay. Why? Then how do we fix it? If we care about it enough. So when I realized the world's unfair and then should doesn't matter, I just decided to keep working really hard at things that I liked. And then I kept playing football later after school. And then I got an opportunity to start for a few years playing semi-pro football, which was really fun and doing the things that I loved. So, but yeah, leadership started early subconsciously and just kind of trudging through those really difficult times and emotionally difficult times. Because if anybody also has been around me for a period of time, my heart is right here. So
for those of you watching, or for those of you just listening, he's talking. He referenced his sleeve, so his heart is on his sleeve. All right, I just want to make sure.
Oh yeah, my bad. I forgot about that.
No worries. Go on. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, leadership starts there. So just learning young that things are hard, and then growing through it. And then when I found out how to foster that mental strength, which allowed me to be a better leader, I realized I can do that by like what we referenced earlier, putting myself in really uncomfortable places and just like, I guess for lack of argument, treading water, drowning sometimes, just floundering, and sometimes looks like a panic. Sometimes I look like an Olympian. Sometimes things don't go well. Sometimes they do go well. And I'm talking about professional life. I'm talking about relationships. I'm talking about physically demanding training or work. If you put yourself in a place where you don't really know how to do something or have the tools to do it, and you just tell yourself like, figure it out, that mental strength and perseverance and will get developed really quickly. And then it was just like forging in the fire. Okay, you did it once, now do it again. What's the next thing? Now, how do I forge this again? How do I bring the hammer down to keep bending the steel to make it stronger and stronger and stronger? And then that type of stuff allowed me to be a leader from the front, like you mentioned. And it's really, truly what it comes from. You can stand on your soapbox all day long and preach, but that's all it's going to be, because no one wants to hear your words. But what they do, and we talk about this in business all the time, right, is that people don't buy your product, they buy you. They don't, no one's here in this gym because I do better sets or I have like cooler equipment or like, I don't know, the colors on the wall are green. They're here because I've proven that I'm willing to grab you by your hand and trudge through the mud. And I'm not leaving until it's done. So really it's about just leading, like you said, leading from the front, being an example for everyone that you're a part of. And then, don't stop your reach. That's the learning to be mentally tough leads to good leadership. Actually got a book I reference from time to time this year. I started reading, and it's got like one little lesson a day, and it's the Maxwell Daily Reader, and it's all about, every single page is about leadership, but it's one page, one lesson from an excerpt from another book or something like that. And that's how important leadership is to me. Is something I have to read about every day, because that's how we're going to impact lives. That's how I'm going to change more lenses. That's how we're going to give more opportunities to see things from different points of view, because some people are afraid of a barbell and they're like, oh my God, I shouldn't touch that. That's scary. That's only for like heavy, big fat power lifters that are grunt and yell when they do things. And, I noticed, I'm going to jump to a certain part, but one of our questions in here that Adam prepared for me was like, what's your favorite piece of equipment in the gym? And I think, to be honest, the barbell is that for me. And it's not that because I love like bench press. Like, when you're younger, you're like growing up, you're like, oh, how much you bench? Like, I don't, now I don't even know how much you clean and jerk is probably what I'm going to ask you. But, so the barbell though, it's just, we demask it. We make it approachable. We make it accessible because it's an amazing tool. There's so many facets of a barbell that teach us things that I think are important. I know that you probably would pick a kettlebell if I could put a name on something right now.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah, you're probably right.
But yeah, just the tools allow us to be better leaders, and if we have to remember that that's the goal. It's not, we want to snatch better, we want to have a better kettlebell flow, we want to do whatever. But what is that allowing us to do with our lives? Because at the end of the day, we're all going down, and no one's going to know how much you benched. No one's going to know, but everyone's going to know. How did you make them feel? How did they respond to you? How did you treat people? Who did you help? Those are the things that are really going to matter.
One of the things when you're talking about should, you reminded me of another question that I had for you. Just saying, basically that should kind of got myself in a pickle there, but should not a accurate way to describe whatever the situation may be. And this kind of leads into failure, right? And the mindset behind failure. And I wanted to ask you about failure a little bit and kind of the importance that you think it has in general life. So failing to maybe get a job that, you thought you should get because you thought that you were better than the other people, or, maybe it is hitting a PR, or, failing to, I don't know, even something as minute as, get a girlfriend, something like that. Failure. How important is failure to, in general? Please elaborate on that a little bit.
All right, so I'd be happy to. Well, first off, what's on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most important, what's your opinion on how important failure is?
So I think failure is, we're not referencing it to something else, but I'd say it's one of the most important things on a scale. I'd probably say it's about 9 to 10, 8, between 8 and 10, I'd say. Because I think that failure is so important, because it really tells you, it gives you a reality check of where you are in life, right? And if you need to continue improving upon those things, whether it's any of the things that I just talked about, right? Or whether you, because if you're not failing at it, that means that, okay, I can continue to progress. I can continue to grab the heavier kettlebell and or put more weight on the barbell. And I think that it makes you who you are, because it also determines how willing you are to get back up from when you fail, which I think is very important, because everybody can fail, right? Everybody has failed. Even, large business owners, Steve Jobs. If Steve Jobs failed and didn't revamp Apple, and I'm not exactly sure what he did. Maybe Seth Spicer could come on and tell us, because I know he knows exactly. But if he didn't fail, then he wouldn't have had to go back to the drawing board, reinvent himself, so that he could then come out with the new products, which we now all of us have, right? Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think the failure aspect has to be one of the most important pieces, because you need to know where you're at. You need to know whether or not you can get back up. And if you can't, well, keep trying, because everybody's going to fail. Life's going to keep on punching you in the face. And regardless of what profession you're in, you're always going to have setbacks with your profession, your family, your relationship, your finances, everything you're going to have a pushback on. And life is going to say, hey, you thought you were good at this until you met this person, or until you met this challenge that is X amount better than you are. Now you need to step yourself up, and you need to be able to get over that hump and pick up your bootstraps, as they say, because it's tough when you fail at things. And I know personally, I can attest to failing in my own personal relationship with people, and failing for the ability to communicate with people. I've came a long way from that, but there have been times in my life where I'm not great at communicating. I'm not great at adequately communicating my strengths and weaknesses, as well as my feelings. And the only way to improve upon that is to fail and get that recognition of, hey, this isn't good enough. This needs to be improved. And if you don't improve this, there are consequences. And I think that's the other double side of the coin with failure, is that there's a consequence to continuing to fail. Now, whether that consequence is more drastic, right? Obviously, if you're failing in your whatever your financial situation is, and you're going to lose your house, it's much different than not being able to put 5 more pounds in the bar. But right. I think that there's that other side of the consequences that some people run from and some people go head first into. And it's the difference of kind of how you look at that, right? How you approach that situation. Do you run away from it, or do you take it head on, grab the bull by the horns, look that, I'm not going to swear, but look that thing in the face and say, I'm coming for you next time. Yeah. I'm not going to let you beat me this time. And I think that's really important. So what about you? What's your, unless I summed it up, I love to hear your opinion as well.
Fantastic points. You did a great job. I think some of the two biggest things that come to mind is, first one is failure is not fatal, but I think they didn't finish that quote, and they should say until it is. And there's a way I'll explain that in a second. And really overall, I think failure is in my opinion probably 10 out of 10. I think it's the most important thing, but it kind of what should precede failure, like we've talked about, is a mindset. So if you're going to, I can put you in situations where you're just going to get beat up all the time. But if your mindset isn't equipped, if you're not equipped to handle that, or to be able to take a lens to that and realize there's learning points, realize there's a lot of truth explained through failure, and these different ways to see it, then you're just going to feel like you're just getting beat, and you're just never it's just never going to be anything that matters to you. You're going to stop, you're going to do whatever. So I think that the mindset of the growth mindset is probably the easiest way to say it, because with a growth mindset, what we do is we believe that nothing is ever enough, and that there's always better. And one thing that actually I was just talking to an athlete about in the gym was so before they came to the gym, they were like in their friend group, equipped, fit, strong, like the one that everybody kind of looked at and thought was like, if I'm going to be fit, this is what I want to be like. They get here and they come with all of that, and they're great people, by the way. This isn't like an ego situation. They come, they're pretty fit, pretty strong, and all this stuff. And then we're sometime into training here, and they realize that their abilities have improved tenfold. So if you were that beforehand, and then now we've improved you to where you are, the problem is you're so much better than you've ever been, but yet you still feel like you're not enough. And I think that's a mindset issue, and that's part of that could be fostered from constantly searching for failure, right? But it's about how we view it when it happens, and the issues that we have to learn, or the way that we can learn from that, is you have to be really proud of every effort. Now, I'm also not a person that thinks that that you should have participation trophies. I don't think that, because I think that again leads us to a place in our lives where we think we should get something, and should just doesn't mean anything. So I think that things have to be earned, but in the same respect, you have to be your own biggest cheerleader in understanding when you try, whether you complete the thing or not, you still win. So you can't, that if you try, if you show up every day, you didn't make the snatch PR. Okay. You didn't run the mile faster. Awesome. You won today. You showed up, you got in the arena, you fought, you did what you could. But if you just go in there and you take that failure concept and you think it's either make or break, you're just not going to continue, because you're just going to keep getting beat. Because at some point, you're going to find walls that you're physically not prepared to handle, that we need to train to overcome. So when you can learn to, the quote from that was, always be proud, but never satisfied. So be proud of where you are, be proud of what you've done, be proud of where you came from, be proud of, whether it's 5 pounds or 30 seconds, or whether it's a new position at work or whatever it is. And there's always going to be more. It's never going to stop. But if you look at that as a daunting aspect of life, it's going to become really hard, and you're just not going to want to fight for anything anymore. So when we overlook the small victories and we don't allow ourselves to be our own superheroes, to be who we think we are, who we see that we want to be like, you're already that. And you have to realize that. And you have to love that and appreciate that. And then go, okay, I can be better. And that's it. So I think that the mindset about failure is the most important thing before failure. But if that mindset is kind of put in place, and that only gets done by forging through fire, right? Forging through moments of difficulty and seeing what you can do. When we reach failure is now the most important thing, because it's going to teach you everything about life. And it's going to teach you everything about your mission. Like, let's say you you get looked over for the job that you want, and you're talking about professional careers, and you worked really hard, and you should have got it. You put the hours in, you read the books, you studied the diagrams, you presented really well, and you didn't get it. When you look at that, we have to look at that opportunity of failure as a moment of truth. What you're going to find is, did that failure ignite you or extinguish you? Because then what that's also going to do two things. It's a ripple effect, like everything else. If it ignited you, okay, let's go out and work harder. Let's learn what we messed up. And it could have been timing. It could have been personnel. It could have been who that person knew, things that you have no control over. So then just prepare better, be better, no matter what. And then on the other side, if it extinguished it, then it's not something you really care about. And that's okay too. Again, the thing about like all these answers, like if this, then this, diagrams and trees, which are great. But you have to realize that's an objective viewpoint. You can't take an emotional response to those answers. Like if getting that job, if you get extinguished and getting that position, really you're like, it didn't matter, and that's not a bad thing. That's okay. It just didn't matter to you. But admitting that has to be okay, and you have to be able to just take that answer and just roll with it. So failure is ultimately the biggest gift we have, because it's going to shine light on things that we love. It's going to shine light on things that we hate. It's going to shine light on ways that we can improve our mental strength, our fortitude to push through difficult times. It's going to make us answer really hard questions. I read this book one time, and it was about a guy who was going through a divorce with his wife. And he said, in the terms of taking extreme ownership, I had to realize this is a failure. And this is the point of the conversation, it's a failure moment. Our marriage failed. We had a divorce. We're on the verge of divorce, I should say. And he said, if I choose to sit here and say it's her fault, it's the kids, it's work, I don't have balance, whatever, I'm taking away my opportunity to impact the result, because I'm putting all of the blame on things that I can't impact, I can't change. But if I flip this around and realize I have a hand in every single aspect of the success of this relationship, I can change it. I can improve it. I can do something about it. So when he realized that, he took the extreme ownership and said, it's not my wife's fault. It's not my kid's fault. It's not anybody else's fault. It's my fault, and I can do something about it. And that is empowering. That's igniting. That's bolstering your ability to look inside, to pull from it, and then to use it to improve your situation. So I think that failure teaches us everything, but the biggest issue with failure is everyone's afraid of it. And that's because of our culture. That's because of the way that, kids are like the school system. The school system's such a challenge, in my opinion. All you're there to do is pass fail. Like, I was a terrible student. What did I learn in school? I learned that I sucked at school. I learned that sleeping through class was probably the most important thing I could do, because, why not, right? There's nothing else going on. Not like teachers are paid to stand there and help you learn things. By the way, I had some of the greatest teachers in the world. I can't, this is not like I hate school, whatever. This was my experience when I was a youth. But then I also realized there was no subject matter that mattered to me. I needed math when I did construction. Obviously, there's a lot of things in the field that are really important in that sense. I actually need some math in coaching, because there are certain angles that allow us to do better things. And we kind of learn a lot through geometry and conversations like that. But social studies, I thought history was cool, but I'm not a historian. I don't have any route there. Art was really neat because it fostered my imagination and my continued kind of lens opportunities. When I keep saying lens, how are you seeing the world? And that's a really important thing to keep looking through. So, just nothing that was I really love it. And then I just found myself loving training. As an athlete, I was I love working out. I get psyched up about working out. It's all. And then I realized I got an opportunity from a coach one time. That coach I mentioned earlier, Dave, he's like, "Hey, do you want to come?" By the way, didn't even really know me that long. Do you want to come and coach at my facility? And I was like, "Oh, I can do that. I can do that." And I was like, "Yeah, I can do that. Let's go do this thing." And then I was like, "I don't know what I'm doing." And then I learned. I've spent a better part of 8-10 years learning how to do this stuff. So,
how many times did you fail along that road?
Oh, every day, all the time. I failed in moments of in minute moments, in every workout. I failed something. I didn't explain something well. I didn't help have a better cue for a person to figure out what they're supposed to do. I didn't say hi to somebody walking in. There's moments of failure across every single day. Mm-hmm. But if you look again, it's how do you view failure? Failure is an opportunity to learn how to succeed. It's not failure doesn't kill me. The only way it kills you is if you quit. And then if you quitting is a learned trait, my friend. It is not something you want to practice. It gets really easy to keep quitting when you start quitting. So, it's a long explanation. I keep going on forever, but failure is the most important gift that we have in this world, and we have to learn how to make it not so scary. We have to make it something that we approach. We want to find those walls. I want to learn how I miscommunicated in my opportunity to get a new job. I want to learn, was it dressed up wrong? It's all learning opportunities, and we need to hit those walls. And if you never hit those walls, like Adam suggested, you're probably doing really well, and maybe you keep putting weight on the bar and things like that. That's great and stuff, but you're going to find a point. Keep that linear path going until you go boom and you nail it. And then you're like, wee, and then up higher than it was before. And then, so you got to find a wall. And if you're not finding a wall in relationships, you think you love well, find a way to love better, find a way to speak their language better, do things for them that they didn't even ask for. I say this stuff because, like your podcast suggests, how is it all connected? And this is something you and I do all the time. This is not about the barbells and the plates. What do we do it's encompassing. It's every single part of our lives.
And one thing I told the guests last week as well. Good thing you're on a podcast, so you can talk and ramble. So you don't got to apologize for for going on a little ramble and rant there.
Yeah, we are very good at that. So I'm trying to be good here.
I'm going to have a sidebar real quick. When I first met Adam, just to kind of allude to what he's talking about with like, how we can just chat back and forth. We met at a coffee shop in Saratoga, and this was my second time meeting him. I think we chatted for 3.5 to 4 hours, if I remember correctly. Yep. Maybe 2 bathroom breaks in between, but
something like that. A couple coffees.
Yeah, 2, I think maybe. Aside from that, it was just straight conversation the entire time. So this type of back and forth, I think, is really needed, and I think it's good for other people to hear it and just to see how because I know you're very well known in the community. I'm trying to make myself more known in both communities, but I think getting the chance to see what really makes you and likewise with myself is really good for listeners to see. My next thing that I wanted to bring up had to do with everything you were talking about with failure, right? We're not going to beat that dead horse because that thing's already beat. But more so moving on to how you cultivate the culture that you have at Outcast with this type of everything that you just talked about, the mindset, the failure, the making sure that you are uncomfortable, because that's one thing we didn't really touch on actually, is making sure you don't grow when you're comfortable. And anyone who tells you that you do grow when you're comfortable, they are extremely comfortable and they're not growing.
Absolutely.
So I guess the question is, how have you cultivated all of that into your culture? Because one thing I have noticed at this gym is that, I talked about the culture of the members and how everybody is just so loving, and it's really a community aspect. And for those of you listening that may be new coaches or someone who has their own business that is trying to cultivate this type of culture that Adam and I are talking about, would you be willing to kind of indulge a little bit more into that and how you kind of created what you've created, which I do have to give you the praises for?
Thanks, man. First of all, I reach failure every day, right? We just talked about that, and that's just what there's moments in this culture conversation that, I look back at it and I'm like, I wish this was different. I wish this response was different. But what's amazing about the career path that we chose is we're dealing with the most complex thing in the entire world, and that's humans. So, I guess to start the answer of culture development in my path so far, I would say the absolute most important factor to start, and some people are gonna be like, oh, how many times are you gonna say this, is love. If you don't express, like, if you don't feel that I truly care for the path that you're on and care for you and your well-being, you're not gonna sell out for me. You're not gonna give me everything you have. You're not going to do this scary thing that, like, how many times you've been upside down? Not very often. Okay. Right. Most people are like, okay, if your feet are not on the floor, it's a big problem. That's usually you're falling and it's not good. So, and right now with how much ice is out there, it's happening probably more often than it should. So what if in that scenario, like, and I'm gonna be like, yo, you're going to be okay. You're gonna be like, if you don't trust me, you're gonna be like, fuck that. I'm sorry. Oh, beep it all. I was gonna try really hard not to do that the whole time.
I know. Hey, same here, man. No worries. You're good.
You're just not gonna do it, and that's okay. That just tells me that there's not enough buy-in yet. But to develop that, like, I ask you how your day is. I ask you how your family is. How's school? Like, can I help you with if you're sick? Like, I'm there all the time. People, especially now with all this stuff going on. People would be like, oh, I got this going on. I'm like, hey, can I go to the store and get you groceries? Can I? And people take care of, and you can attest to this. Yeah. People take care of us in this gym better than sometimes like our own families do. Like, people bring us food when we're coaching at night. People line us up with like gifts and goodies and like gift cards, but all of that, generosity only comes from supporting that care, loving each person and being like, hey, what can I do for you? Because it's not about what I get. It's what can I do for you? You have to ask that question first and always. So, care, love and care is the first way. And then after that, you have to provide just enough of a stimulus to allow for challenge within their threshold. So each person is different. And this is the challenge of group coaching is one person be like, oh, I've never done a handstand walk before. And you're like, well, go ahead and try it. And they're like, boom, they flip up and they're like, oh, I fell 36 times and it's okay. Their threshold for failure or what they're scared of, maybe falling or different things like that, is super high. They're like, they'll go for it. Then I do this. I have the next person in line. The next person's like, I can't even put my hands on the floor. Beautiful. I love it. Wherever you're at, I love it right now because we're going to find a way to get you to a new position, to a new thing. You're not going to do a handstand walk today, but do they still face their fear? We're going to figure out what the fear is. How do we get them into a better position that achieves a similar
circumstance?
Thank you.
There you
Thank
go.
you. That gets them closer to the point we're trying to get to, but is within the threshold of their ability. So I think sometimes the issues that we see in the coaching world is like, you're trying to fit that round peg in the square hole. And it's like, they're not built to do that. They don't move that way. They don't. And the other thing is realizing, this is a little bit of a tangent, but realizing that not everybody has to do a thing like a parallel squat. If you have a massive, knee surgery and issues, and it went really badly for like 20 years, we might not be able to get to a parallel squat. We might still learn how to activate glutes and quads and how to do things that are still productive. But why does a parallel squat matter to you? It shouldn't, because it has nothing to do with you being a better human. But learning how to still use those muscle groups has everything to do with you being a more productive, safe, equipped human. So challenging within the threshold is probably the next big key there. And then fostering it, leading from the front. Everyone's got to see you failing. If you're not failing, there's like, I just read something about like a survey that was in health and wellness. And it was like, do you have to be fit to be a coach? And it was like, no, you don't have to be fit to be a coach, but you're going to deal with stereotypes and you're going to deal with people's lenses of you suggesting like, oh, you're going to tell me how to get fit or lose weight or be strong. But like, you're just, unathletic, unhealthy, whatever. It's really hard to take advice from somebody who doesn't look like or seem like they do the thing. So you really have to live the life that you're talking about to get people to buy in and give you that level of, I'm going to lay on the floor after I'm done and hopefully I'm alive kind of thing. So that culture of toughness, that's where that comes from. You got to foster it within the threshold. Give them opportunities to fail and succeed. And I was just talking about this today with another athlete. You can't just fail all the time unless you have a really high threshold for that. And there's very few people in the world who are still even mentally tough who have that kind of threshold to hit failure and just shrug it off and just be like, okay, let's go for the next thing, right? It's a very hard thing to find and foster. So, but that doesn't mean that there's not mentally tough people that can handle a little bit of it and still be successful. But then it's like, if we want to reference workouts, you need like a pat you on the back workout. Or if you're a sports fan, like, your pre-game season opponents might be like super like low class or lower level athleticism or production than you as a team, because you want those confidence boosting games. You want those times where you like feel like you're just ripping it apart and like there's nobody who can stop you. So you still need workouts like that. You still need moments like that. You still need time when you feel like you're on top of the world. Because if you're just constantly getting beat, you're either going to find somebody who's extremely durable and can handle failure, or you're just going to beat it out of them and they're going to walk out and they're never going to come back. So you got to play that fine line of, how do we allow you to succeed and have fun, but then how do we challenge that toughness and that those moments of grit. So, but then, that's just the tough side of culture. There's so many facets of it. It's like you referenced the culture that we have about caring and about, friends first. How do we learn? And we like, you had a situation where one of our people had a healthcare item that you needed, and you literally like, she offered it right to you at the gym. You go over to her house, she gives it to you, which is out of the way of you going home. And then, you go on your merry way. It's like that doesn't just happen. It's because we do for them as much as we can. It's not like you only gave me this much this month. I'm only going to give you this much.
Yes.
Like always give more, always over deliver, and then let them meet you. And it's like they'll keep giving you more if they feel like they're valued. So you got to make them feel valued. You got to make them feel loved. You have to make them feel safe. But then you have to challenge them. It sounds like I'm raising a child. I'm raising a child, by the way. I have a son. So it's the things that I'm hoping to do with my son too. I want to help him feel safe. I want to help him learn. But I am not going to coddle him, and like I'm not going to coddle anybody else. We're going to learn how to challenge you. And then when you are challenged and when you maybe have found your breaking point, I'm going to give you a hug. You're going to be okay. You might shed a few tears. And then we're going to learn that that's an acceptable moment in life. We need that. We want that. You're going to come back tomorrow. You might have a workout then that makes you feel really good. And then you might find another wall. That's how we learn to accept and allow those moments that build our culture, because all of that stuff is what formulates the culture. And I guess if there's one thing that I wouldn't do for culture, or I guess I would, but it's like a negative thing, is eliminate as many poisons as possible as soon as you can. So a lot of times what we see here, and I've said this to everyone that's been in this gym, is I'd rather not take a membership fee from you if you are not going to add to the culture and the value that we have. So the money doesn't mean as much to me as the way that people treat each other in here and the way that we care about you as a human, not just, you as a competitor. So get rid of the poisonous people. And I know it's hard, trust me, there's been some in my past that I've allowed to stay too long and have made it difficult, and it shouldn't be that way, So get rid of those things, lead from the front, pick everyone up wherever they are. All of those things are how you build a really, really good culture. Educate. I don't know how I didn't say that. Educate. That's one thing that we do all the time. Like today, I read from that book that I was referencing earlier, and I was like, I'm going to spare you guys the whole lecture because it's like whatever. I just read you the 3 bullet points. And we do that with everyone. We have athletes as young as 8 years old, and we have athletes as 6, 7, maybe my mom's the oldest, 63. She might be the oldest. So somewhere in the 60s, 70s right now, currently. So we do it with all of them. We read the passages to the young kids, and we try to help them digest a couple small pieces of whatever that might be that they can kind of get in those moments. And then we read them to adults. And some people love self-growth. Some people kind of hear it in one ear and out the other. But guess what? They're exposed to it. They're going to keep getting exposure to it because that's who I am. That's who we are as a culture. And that's what we're going to keep putting out there.
That's a very in-depth and accurate answer. So again, remember you're on a podcast, so you can talk as much as you want.
I see we're closing on like an hour, so I feel like we've only gotten through like 3 questions. So
no, we've got, honestly, this was for all the listeners. This was going to be labeled a fitness podcast, but this is now going to be labeled a mindset. More
Perfect.
Mindset and community culture based podcast instead. So I know as per last week, we do 1 podcast per our pillars. So this podcast for next week when it comes out on all of the podcasting platforms will definitely be on mindset and leading and coaching. I haven't figured out exactly what I'm going to use as the header, but basically it's going to be in the pillar of mindset. One of the things that I wanted to talk about in that answer, kind of going away from mindset a little bit, talking a little bit more of like maybe exercise selection and like how to meet people where they're at, is something that you said that we are very passionate about here at CCHS, is individualization, understanding that the constraints of the past movements of the individual, the past injuries, as well as their physical structure, like you were saying, knee reconstruction. I know for myself, my ACL reconstruction has definitely changed the way that I organize my movement. So I just wanted to ask, or more so talk about how important that is when it comes to someone who, we have a client at Outcast that has no menisci, I think is the plural, pads in her knees, and I won't call her out by name because, you just want to keep it anonymous, but there are a lot of things that it's not, and this is one of the times I will use this phrase of not able to do something. I don't want to use the word can't because I don't really believe in saying you can't do something, but she's not physically able to get to a depth squat or to do lunges because of the pain that it causes her. And one of the important things is being able to, as a coach, look at that subjectively and say, okay, yes, I want you to be able to squat, but what is that going to do for you in the next day, in the next week, as far as your pain threshold and your ability to live your life outside of the gym? Because as much as we sit here and any coaches listening in sit here and talk about exercise and talk about these mindset things, we eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. Whereas some of the people joining in, and some of the people at your gym or that you're training, they don't eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff the same way we do. So we have to look at it as, okay, how can we give you movements that will or constraints? And by constraint, I just mean basically, for example, putting a box down when someone's squatting if they don't have the certain depth to get to a depth, a parallel squat. You put a box down, but how can we create a constraint so that they can still gain the value from the movement, like Adam was talking about, still have the ability to coordinate those muscles in a similar fashion, because obviously you won't organize the same way if you have no meniscus as you will if you do, but making sure that you meet them where you're at, like you said, and being able to adjust the movements and exercises so that you can do whatever that movement is. It may be a different variation. It may be that you're using, a band supported squat, right? Or a TRX supported lunge, whatever it may be. And yes, one thing that we do as coaches, and I'm trying to get better at this, is we always want to correct. We want to correct immediately. We see something bad and we're like, I just need to fix it immediately, right? Because we want to be perfectionists to some sort. But in reality, part of the struggle, part of the experience of exercise and the struggle is figuring it out for yourself, being able to come to that point of understanding the movement by yourself and not being spoon-fed it. Like we talked about with the fish analogy earlier about feeding and you can lead someone, you can tell someone, all right, I need you to drop down to a certain point, stop right there, come back up. Okay, that's a squat. Or you can lead them to this by relating it to sitting down in a chair, right? All you have to do is, hey, figure it out. It's just like sitting down in a chair. And then when they are not with you, will understand how to do that movement just as well as if they were with you. Because I think that's another important point of coaching in general, is that yes, we want people to continuously come back to our facility, to our training, to train with us. But there is always a certain point in time or there may be a certain point in time where people will take the knowledge that you've given them and then go possibly work out on their own or work out at a corporation gym, whatever your fancy is. And it's important that they understand the movement from a fundamental level and not just, hey, do a squat. Because it's so the coordination of a squat, it can be so convoluted when it comes to having to control different parts of your body. When in reality, if you get them to understand that, hey, it's just sitting down and standing back up, they won't need to confuse their brain with, oh, I need to, but I've seen all these things on social media and I've seen X, Y, and Z about I need to make sure my glutes are contracting at the top and my quads are fully elongated and contracting at the bottom. Because then you have to think about what that does to the brain. How does the brain perceive that? Are you squatting or are you controlling muscles through a movement where your body is lowering to the ground, right? And obviously, there's different situations where you need to give a little bit more of a commanding cue when you have a lot of weight on your back. I mean, that's totally different conversation. I definitely understand the necessity for that, but honestly, even with that, being able to still teach them those things so that they are not just listening to you cue, so they can pick up on those things when they're by themselves, right? So I know that wasn't really a question, but
I get you.
We got time for probably this last part, unless there's anything else you want to hit on. So I just want to ask your opinion on basically everything that I was just talking about when it comes to exercise selection and cueing in a sense, and that whole realm of exercise?
First off, I've got to give you a ton of credit. So one of the things that was important when Adam came on, and I say Adam almost like, I guess it's a different format. I feel like just listening, it's like, oh, when you came on, I should be saying.
Which Adam, yeah.
So when we started working together, I made it a very clear point that it wasn't me as an owner. It was me as a friend. It was me as a coach, me as a coworker with him. Because I don't like the concept that, I apparently I need to be above just because I own the space. That's not what I like, and that's not the relationship that I like.
I'd say that's part of the culture as well. Sorry, go on. I just wanted to.
No, thank you. So with that being said, though, Adam brought to me some great feedback on how to use a different lens, because I'd say that all the time. So when I'm thinking of cueing, I do a lot of verbal and more or less kind of like, think of you as like the mechanical robot. I can put you. I know that if you're not watching this right now and you're not seeing me do a robot, then this sounds really awkward. But I can put you in a position. I can put you in an ideal position. I can make you look like you are in the right spot. I can talk to you to get to the right spot. One of the things that Adam really loves to do, and that I learned from him, is how to use more tactile cues. And tactile meaning like, I'll put my hand out and say, hit my hand. If it's a row, or if it's like, I'll put my hand in front of your knee and say, I want you to, stop when you're squatting. I want you to only touch my hand, and then continue down, but don't push my hand back further. So like giving different cues where you're not positioning them, and then allowing them to learn how to move through the movement. Like Adam says, how to organize the movement on their own. That stuff I learned a lot when he came here. And I still am trying to practice that more because, again, I'm comfortable doing what I can do, and I've had some success doing it, but I can be better because I can have another tool in my toolbox on how to cue differently and how to get people in better positions. So that's a huge feather in his cap when he's coming along with anybody he's working with. He's very, very adept and equipped in all of those things. And I've seen him do some really great work, by the way, with rehab style training, with screening processes to get to understand what the ailment is. Very, very equipped in that sense. So that's stuff that I've learned a lot from him in that way. But that leads to the conversation of exercise selection, like he was referencing. So when I'm looking at that, one of the things that I pride myself on is, and one of the reasons why I think we can offer a high quality product, is because we don't try to do the square peg in a round hole. So even though I write a program that's built for a class setting. It's built in the concept of taking all the people that we have, taking my concept of health, wellness, strength, and performance, and creating an avatar, and then saying, what do I want this avatar to achieve? So, maybe I want this avatar to lose a little weight. Cool, because is that like maybe a primary goal across the average of people that are at the gym? Sure. Because we're not talking about individualized training. That's a different conversation, and that can happen. But in a class setting, that's not really the structure. And I think this is one of the reasons why we're successful in a class setting, is because of this avatar concept. So then we take, what do we want? We want this avatar to be equipped outside the gym to be to handle life at its fastest speeds and say yes to opportunity. So if that's my case, then how do I program things to do that? Well, then they need to be able to bend, hinge. They need to be able to squat. They need to be able to push, pull, loaded carry. They need to do these main movement patterns to allow them to say yes. Because if somebody's like, hey, I want you to go kayaking. And you're like, they don't know how to row. They don't know how to pull. Maybe they can't do kayaking because they don't have an equipped, or maybe they can only go for a couple minutes because they're physically deconditioned to not be able to handle a longer paddle that they can get into. So I want you to be, or a hike, a nice long hike. I want you to be able to say yes to more things. So if that's my goal, that's going to lead me down some really cool paths of development in terms of program design. And it gives me a lot of freedom because it's not like I need to gain bigger biceps. One of the things that we don't believe in really, and I very rarely do I ever put these styles of workouts in, is body splits. And what that means is like working on back and bis, or working on chest and tris, or whatever other body part you want to throw in there. I believe in performance-based training. And again, a lot of this goes back to mindset, understanding people come in with a really unhealthy relationship with themselves, and telling them that they want bigger biceps or whatever is not going to help that scenario, or a skinnier waist. But what is empowering is if I find out what you can push on a sled in 1 minute, then we can, in like a month, we can put more weight on, or do the same weight, but do it more times. You're empowered, you're growing, you're improving, because we're improving your performance and your capacity in life. We're not specifically changing on purpose the size of your bicep. So with group training, that's how I approach programming, is looking at what do I want my avatar to achieve? And my avatar is built from the models of all of our clients and kind of their general needs. Now, then there's things that once we have that really awesome avatar built, and we're like, this guy is going to be, or gal, I should say, is going to be like a rock star. They're going to be able to rock climb. They're going to be able to run really fast. They're going to be able to do some long distance stuff. Then now that program's designed, and then it's periodized for like trying to peak and have higher performance levels at certain times, but then recovering in other times. And that happens throughout the week in terms of like higher intensity workouts and then lower intensity workouts. And then we have some days that are literally just stretching. We have some days that are kind of more about a little bit of a, like, let's say like a zone 3 breathing, zone 2 breathing, but just blood flow, movement kind of style stuff. Nothing that's really super challenging to the micro tears of the body. So when we have all that done, then we say we have these workouts that are really cool. But then we have somebody that comes in that has a hip replacement, and they're like, yeah, okay, so jumping doesn't work with me. And I'm like, awesome, you don't need to jump. So how do we fix that? Or we don't really need to fix it. Okay, why? Well, you're not a square peg in a round hole. You're a human that has a lot of different needs. So we can improve your capacity to live without needing to jump. And that's the goal. So we learn how to either substitute, or I should say scale away first. So take an exercise, let's say a pull-up, and you're like, I can't do a pull-up, and it's not because of strength, it's because of a shoulder issue. So, well, whatever, depending on the movement problem is, we'll come up with another exercise that might target the muscle groups that are being used, so they can get trained properly, so that the ability of the body, the back, or whatever the thing is being trained is improving still. So if if the exercise is jump rope, and again, you're going back to the concept of somebody with a hip issue and you're not jumping, then there's still some active work we can do on your toes that looks more like kind of like switch steps and different things, maybe with a speed ladder, that your feet aren't off the floor at the same time, but you can get some of the not as ballistic work done, but some more calf, ankle, knee, hip control and ligament work done that can come from good skipping rope or jumping rope exercises. So there's the ability to scale away is first, and then completely change the exercise choice after, or muscle group. So specifically in that instance, we had a lot of jump rope yesterday with someone, and I said, you know what, instead of doing this or doing anything to do with that part, let's do a couple exercises that allow you to be better at a movement called a wall walk. So what's your issue? Well, being upside down is my issue. Let's put some tape on the floor and give you some goals to, like, okay, this is how far you've moved your hands. Let's try to move them back a little bit further. So then during that time period, everyone else is jump roping, that other person is doing something progressive for them to get to better goals and better movement patterns, and allowing them to stay healthy because I'm not forcing them to jump. So I think that's really one of the reasons why I believe we're successful. And I think that's something that a lot of our clients would say, our OA fam would say, that, you know, the ability to, it almost feels like personal training in a group setting. And I think that that's something that allows me to be successful, be a high level coach, and to continue to offer the best products that we can.
Yeah, I think just to wrap it up here, I think that that's part of the reason why I've excelled and succeeded in this role. Because coming into this, obviously having my own business and being contracted through you, I was very adamant on, hey, I have a certain style I train like. This is my style. It's a you take all of me or you leave all of me type of thing. And it resonated with me that I was able to still train under the same, almost as if it's personal training, where I can take that time to be with an individual for, sometimes I know I get talking and work a little longer with one person than another, and then I have to go like, hey, I'm sorry here, and then I'll divvy my time back up. But just being able to have that individual connection with people in a group style class is something that I really haven't seen before. So I do have to hats off to you for that. But we are just about out of time. I know we both are busy men. We got other things to do. So Adam, let the people know where they can find out more about you, where they can, social media, anything like that. So if anyone listening is like, hey, this dude looks pretty cool or sounds even cooler, I want to know more about him, let the people know.
Thanks, man. Yeah, pretty much everything Outcast Athletics. So Facebook is Outcast Athletics. Instagram, I think, has an underscore between the words. Outcast, if you want to email me, outcastathleticsllc@gmail.com. Adam has big access to my contact info. We can also throw it in the notes of this podcast or in comments somewhere if you guys want it. Yeah, I'm available, and this is understanding the passions of life and what Adam and I do. I specifically can say that if you want to reach out to me, I'll help you. It's not a situation where I'm only going to talk to you if you come to this gym. I have people text me all the time. People ask me questions all the time about, how can I do this? What can I do here? What can I do here? And the concept of over delivering and impacting our friends, family, and people we don't know is more important than a dollar sign. So if you guys need some help, you need any advice, you need a direction, feel free to reach out. I would love to find a way to help you, or something that I'm learning to really find the value in and be better at is to refer you out, to find somebody who can do the work for you or help you with what you need help with.
Yeah, well, thank you again, Adam, for coming on. His information will be in the show notes once it gets out on Apple Podcast. That'll be next Friday, so make sure you guys stay tuned for that. And I also just want to say thank you for everyone who joining in on this very first guest episode of the How It's All Connected Lifestyle Medicine podcast, and all the comments on the side. We didn't show them today, but we do appreciate. I see we got Tracy coming in. We got Katie. We also got the Bunyan. Thank you guys for everything. We really appreciate
all of you. Thank you.
Yeah, we love all the love and support. And Snug, you too, my dude. Thank you for coming in. We appreciate it. So that's all I got for you guys today. As always, I want you guys to stay happy and stay healthy. And thank you for joining in to this number 2 episode of How It's All Connected Lifestyle Medicine podcast. Take care.
Thanks, guys.